people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Good morning and welcome. My name is Lori Hendren. I'm the Senior Associate State Director here in AARP Illinois, and we're delighted to have you with us today. Our conversation will focus on elder law with practical insights and guidance to help you take meaningful steps toward jumpstarting your retirement journey. To shed light on this important topic, we have our special guest with us, Steve Andersson, our elder law attorney and contractual lobbyist for AARP Illinois. Welcome, Steve.
It's a pleasure to be here, Lori.
Thank you. I'd like to remind all of you that are joining us on Facebook or YouTube that this 30-minute power session is for you. So please include your questions, comments in our social media feeds, and our producer will elevate that, and these will arrive to Steve to be able to answer. So again, we can best address many of your questions and comments. If you can put them in the feed, we would love to have a conversation with you. We're going to be talking about a broad range of topics, and they can really serve as a starting point for discussions, planning, and consultation with your family and professional advisors in elder law, financial planning, and healthcare. But keep in mind that the specifics of elder law may vary by jurisdiction, so consulting with your elder law attorney, your tax attorney, or your financial advisor is advisable for personalized guidance. So I'm going to open the floor to Steve for welcoming comments. Steve, thank you.
Lori, it's like I said, it's always a pleasure to be here. I got to tell you, at the beginning of the intro, our introduction says, let's try to make this fun, right? That's great advice for us. Remember, even though we talk about some topics that maybe aren't super fun, we can try to make them a little better, a little easier for people, and thereby make them fun. Bearing that in mind, I have to say two things. One is we are talking to a broad audience. We don't know where y'all are from. So you could be from Illinois, which is where we are, but you could also be from California or Maine or anywhere in between. And so when I talk about legal issues, talking about them from the standpoint of kind of an average, if you will. So it's not any one state's law. It's not even Illinois' law necessarily. It's just an overview. So if you want, precise advice for you, go see an elder law attorney or an attorney of your choice. And then number two, Laura already said it, but I want to say it, is ask questions. This is so much better when you all ask your questions. We have some idea of what we want to talk about, but I'd much rather talk about what you want to talk about. So start feeding them in right now.
Yep, we would love it. We'll elevate that for you, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Either way, we're monitoring those chats, and we're going to get to as many of those as possible. So to get the ball rolling, Steve, here's a great starter question. For someone who's getting a late start in retirement, what is the first step they should take when beginning to plan for retirement? And I'm saying someone may say, hey, caregiving has changed my world. I got to leave in 6 months, What do I do to start planning?
Yeah, great question. And right? I just said, let's have fun. Your question is stressful. Well, that's reality though. And it's important to be realistic when we talk about doing this. So when you're when you're looking at the first step, I think the first step is to assess your situation, to very, very realistically look at what comes in, what income you have and what goes, what debts, what expenses, what are the things that you're spending your money on? Because those are things that no amount of legal advice can alter. Only you can alter those. And so I think the first thing that you need to do is have a very realistic assessment of your income and your assets and your debts.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, next, how can individuals assess where they currently stand financially, even if they feel behind in savings?
Yep. So I understand the feeling of feeling behind, and you may or may not be actually behind. You may feel that way. But here's what I would suggest is get out a piece of paper, do it on a computer if you're comfortable with a computer, any way that you feel. But take and go through all of your assets, whether those are retirement accounts, whether it's just your checking account or a savings account. Go through them and list them. Create a spreadsheet, if you will, if you know how to do that. I'm not very good at those things, so I like paper. But create a list, if you will, of what you've got. And most of the time, that information is available online for you, so you can get up to date, moment by moment information. Find out what you've got. Find out what debts you have, if any. Maybe you don't have any, maybe you do. But if you do, I want you to find out what you owe, but also the interest rate on those, because they'll vary, and that is important. Then take a look at your income, how much you receive, whether it be from Social Security or maybe you have a job still, whatever the case may be, look at what you're bringing in. And then the last thing that I would suggest, and this is, I don't sell any products or anything, so I try not to name any names, but there are great apps out there for your phone or for your computer that you can tie into your own bank account. They're legitimate. They're offered by, major banks that allow you to track your spending in real time. And it'll intuitively budget them into categories. This is a great tool for you to be able to actually see what your spending is every month. Compare it by month by month and kind of get a real feel. Because I think we all probably have generalized ideas how we spend our money, but when you actually see it, now you get a real grip. So take a look for one of those apps. That's a great way to figure that out. So those are the things that I would kind of gather together to try to figure out where I'm at, where I can save money, where I can put money away.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's interesting, probably a majority of folks, I'd say their banking institution, their checking institution probably has that, just a feature of their checking or savings account, and they can be able to see that real time. And even if you have credit cards or even if you have medical debt, you can log in to see where it is, and just to be able to get a notice of where you are and update rather than have to wait for a month. And that may even be a change for a lot of listeners to have to do that, especially if your spouse had always done that and they may be unwell, to be able maybe to set up an appointment with your bank and have someone walk you through it to what's there. So thank you, Steve. We do have someone from YouTube. What are some best practices with selecting a certified financial advisor?
So look for not-for-profits that refer to these. So there are any number of them. Again, I don't sell particular products or services, so I try not to use actual product names. But if you go out to the internet, you can find those. But don't click on the first ones that pop up, because that's the internet figuring out how to sell you stuff, right? So if you just click on the first one, and it may look like it's, a not-for-profit referral system, but it's not. It's probably a for-profit business that wants you to click on their buttons, so they make it look very impartial. But drill down a little bit on those, and you can find those. The reason I focus on the not-for-profit style ones is that those don't make any money, or if they do, they'll tell you, they don't make any money through the referral process. So I would advise that. I would also suggest that if you have a banking relationship, with a banker that you know or use, ask them. You can ask attorneys as well. I'm an attorney, but I'm not a financial planner, right? So I know what I know, but I think bankers, people who deal with finances day in, day out, they'll know who the good ones are. So I would, it's always a matter of referral. Those are great people to talk to.
Wonderful. So let's go into next one. What role can downsizing as your home, your expenses, or lifestyles play in building a stronger retirement foundation?
Yeah, and this is hard, right? Because we all have a lifestyle that we get used to. It's kind of hard to downgrade from that lifestyle because you get used to it, right? You may be living a certain way for 50 years, and now suddenly you have to look at changing that. I think when you go into that, the mindset that you have to have is that it's quality, not quantity, of life and of experiences. And so when you do that, prioritize what's important to you. So if we're talking at a very low level, of course, that's just your basic needs. And then, you may want to say, well, then I probably, shouldn't order as much on Amazon or Uber Eats or that sort of thing. Or maybe I have to cut down on the amount I go out and I eat at restaurants. That's a possibility. And those are all good things to do. And by the way, those apps, which I'm not selling, I swear, I'm not selling them, but those apps will intuitively put those into categories for you. So they'll give you suggested budgets, and you'll know what you're doing. And then you can reduce based on that. The biggest area, though, is, of course, your home, where you live. And most of us like to stay in our homes as long as humanly possible. I personally never want to go into a nursing home unless I need it, and then that's probably appropriate. But you don't have to stay in the same home. And that can be a tough decision too. None of what we're talking about is necessarily easy when we're talking about cutting. But you can look at taking, your family home, potentially selling that, buying a more manageable space, maybe a more age-friendly space too. Because, as we get older, maybe that 2-story home isn't the best idea anymore. Maybe a ranch is more appropriate. Maybe a condo with an elevator is appropriate. But you can substantially bring down your living expenses, your tax burdens, all of that by reconsidering how you live. And those are important considerations. And the thing I want to stress is you have to be realistic, because at my age, at the age of other people, you're not, unless you're playing the lottery, you're probably not going to see a lot of bumps to your income. In other words, you may not be fixed on income yet, but neither is it going to go up dramatically. Now, I hope it does. I hope that you get a great bonus at work if you're still working, or or you do win the lottery, for heaven's sakes. But let's not plan on that. Let's hope for that, but let's plan more conservatively and more carefully on that.
And I would like to add that, at least in Illinois, that's planning is even a challenge, because we know that auto insurance rates are going up. Depending on where you live, property taxes are going up. So then this kind of leads into our next question, is when you start planning and you start seeing all this information, this is from someone on YouTube, what is the difference between a financial advisor and a financial consultant?
They're largely the same. I mean, when you see all the letters behind their names, FACP, and there's many of them. They are different registrations. They're fundamentally doing the same thing. So I would not worry about the letters behind their names, but I would worry about where you get that recommendation, where you find it, read their qualifications, see what they are, and don't put heavy emphasis on titles. Put emphasis on experience. Put emphasis on that they know your area. They understand where you're living. If you're in Illinois, don't go to some California planner because the laws are different. Go where you live.
That's a great point. And also, when you start thinking about budgeting, it makes me think of this when we incur so many medical expenses, caregiving expenses. It's the time to look at how much is that deductible? How much are you going to have to be paying out of pocket? And to be, making sure you're prepared for that, and making sure if you're at a Medicare portion of your life that you have various conversations with providers. If you are in Illinois, it's called SHIP. We'll put in the phone number. They can walk you through your various options through that. So, and then also we're going to put in their information on age-friendly homes. So if you're interested more, the link will be up shortly. So, okay, great question. Here we go. How should late starters balance paying off debt versus savings for retirement?
Great question. So what I'd like you to do when you're doing that evaluation of your debts and your assets and savings is take a look at the interest rate. Remember I said at the beginning, I want you to know what the interest rates that you're paying are, because if you think you can beat the interest rate by savings, then try. If that's what you sincerely believe. Most savings accounts, most money markets are not going to beat the interest rates that you're paying on your debt, right? Your debt could be, double digits of interest payments, whereas savings accounts, money markets are going to be they're going to be single digits. So what I would do is I would look at that and I would compare those because they're the same thing, okay? Saving money and paying down debt are just two sides of the same coin. So what I would do is I would look at where you're going to get the best bang for your buck, quite literally in this case, your buck. And if you are paying down high interest rate loans, that is much bigger bang for your buck than saving the money, because you're going to have to pay it down one way or another. So I'd rather have you do that. There's another suggestion, though, on paying down debt that I like to recommend. And this is called the snowball method, which is that, again, if you look at those interest rates, you're going to see different interest rates. So take the first one, the big one, right? The one with the most amount. Now, if you can transfer to lower interest rates, that'd be great. But let's assume they're where they are, right? That's the one I want you to pay down first. So you have to pay minimums on whatever it is, but between the minimums and what you can afford to spend to pay those down, what I'd recommend is you put all of the extra money that you can find on one of them, the one with the highest interest rate. Pay that down the fastest. Then, if you're successful in paying that down, that one goes away. Look at the money that you've saved. But step two in this is that once you do that, don't then go, well, now I have extra money in my income. Take all of that money, the minimum payment on that high interest one that you paid off, plus whatever you were spending or paying off in excess, and put that on number two. And this is the snowball effect. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you pay them all off. It's a great way of doing that. Now, having said that, I will also say that some people feel uncomfortable not having any rainy day money. So take that into account. I'm not telling you to have no savings and just pay down debt. If you want to have some savings, I support that idea. But the biggest bang for your buck is probably paying down debt.
Excellent. And then our producer is going to be putting some information in our feed on a checklist from AARP for aging in place. If you're in Illinois, the phone number for free statewide information on insurance for Medicare beneficiaries. And then if you're also joining us not from Illinois, we welcome you. And we're putting in a link for information on Medicare coverage options. So Part A and Part B, all of these options are really what we've discussed and for resources for you. So what strategy should late starters consider when deciding to claim Social Security benefits?
Yeah. So I think most people understand the later you claim benefits, the more that they will be. So you would be able to claim them at 65. 67 is considered full retirement, so that's going to be larger than an earlier draw at 65. And if you wait further, the amount will go up. So it depends on what you need. If you don't absolutely need that money, you can wait, and then it will the amount you get forever. Whenever you start to draw it, then you'll start to get that forever. Plus, there'll be yearly increases. Typically, there are. You will go from that base. Now, there's another philosophy, and this is an interesting one. And remember, I'm not a financial planner, so you're going to need to talk to one if you want to do this. Another one is if you don't need the money, some planners will argue start taking it at the earliest possible point, even though it's less. Because what they're going to say is, don't take it and spend it. They're going to say, take that money that you get every month and now pile that into a retirement account. Not a retirement account, into a savings account, into an investment account. It can be any kind of investment account you want, and it'll be after tax at that point. Pile it into there and watch that grow. That there are scenarios, and this is where the numbers people come in, where the financial planners come in. There are scenarios where that could beat delaying the payment because you're kind of taking it early, but saving it yourself and investing it yourself. You might be able to do better than what Social Security can do. So it's not an absolute, but it's a thought.
For a very disciplined person. So we're going to put in there for links for prepare for Social Security benefits. This is where you go, where you prepare, you can apply, you can see how to also plan for retirement. It has a calculator in there. So there are lesser known public programs, tax credits, supports that can stretch retirement income. Are there some that you know of, or where does someone go to see if these resources or tax credits are available?
Yeah, there's not a lot, and it will vary by state, and there are some federal programs, but these are for the very poor. So if you're, in kind of that middling world where I think most of us are, there will be very little in that regard, except for the idea of super contributions to your IRAs. So if you're over 50, but you're not yet ready to retire, you're still working, that's an area where you can make a big difference. So this isn't a tax credit. This isn't like supplemental nutrition assistance programs. This is your money. But instead of paying in, $7,000, to your IRA, you can, if you're working and you have some sort of a retirement plan at work, like a 401k, you can do super contributions. And those allow you to go up to, I believe in 2025, $23,500 per year that you can pile into those. So instead of, 35,000 pile on it, so it's actually going to lower your income tax liability during the time that you're working, which is a good thing. And then that money, as always in IRAs and 401ks, will grow tax-free. And then you will be able to pull it out, when the time comes. That to me is probably better than any tax credit. Although that's a tax credit too, because it's lowering your income for that given year and allowing you to spread that out over later years. That to me is one of the best things you can possibly do as a late starter. It's really and it's designed for late starters. It's called a super catch-up. So catch-up. So
okay, so keep coming with your questions, and we're going to go on to again. How should late starters plan for long-term care needs and healthcare costs in retirement? How should we plan? So if we're, let's say, in our just getting to 60, and we're thinking, okay, I'm going to work till I'm 70. How do I start planning?
Yeah. So for long-term care, it's long-term care when we're talking about nursing home care. It's difficult to plan for. And the reality is if you're working and you have savings and assets, it's the same answer. Save, be frugal, be careful with your money. But these ages, you can't do one of the major planning tools, which is you can't get long-term care insurance, which is where you pay in over many years into an insurance plan that will then pay out in the form of benefits for nursing homes. Normal Medicaid or normal Medicare, pardon me, look at me making the wrong statement. Normal Medicare doesn't cover that except for the.
Oh, I think we just lost Steve for a minute. Well, Steve is still on. Oh, are you there with us, Steve?
Yeah, I think I.
Okay, sorry, you glitched.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So that's a tough area. What I would do is I would do everything we've been talking about so far. And then ultimately, if long-term care is in your future and you don't have the wherewithal to pay it, that is where Medicaid comes in. So this is one where I like to say it's going to be okay. Even if you don't plan, even if you do nothing, at some point, if you need nursing home care and you run out of money, Medicaid is there for you. You will qualify based on your lack of assets, lack of income. It will be okay.
Okay, wonderful. And we have about 5 more minutes left in our September Power Hour, half hour with Steve. But we're going to also put in the comments, AARP has a really great instruction manual, Prepare to Care, which is carrying and planning and goes through kind of asset planning and information. So we're going to put that in. And also Meals on Wheels is why I know we have a lot of caregivers and a lot of individuals that are maybe caring for their spouse or home alone or watching this and they're planning. Look this up. This is for the national, and you can put in your zip code to see if there is any Meals on Wheels or congregate, so you could be able to have meals delivered to your home. So next question for Steve. What essential legal documents should everyone have in place to protect themselves and families?
So the most important thing for when you're alive, but maybe no longer able to make decisions, are powers of attorney. In Illinois, we have 2 types, one for healthcare decision-making and one for financial decision-making. It's called a power of attorney for property and a power of attorney for healthcare. Property means everything, so all your financial decisions. In these documents, you get to name someone or some few someones that you care and trust to help make decisions when you can no longer make them. Now, when we're talking about seniors, there are lots of nuances to powers of attorney. And so this is an area where I do recommend that you talk to an attorney in your area, in your jurisdiction, in your state, who can advise on that. Because sometimes the standard power of attorney will be good, but there can be a lot better that can be added to it, especially if you foresee problems with long-term care, with health issues. Those are oftentimes things. But by doing that, by putting those 2 documents, well, in Illinois, there are 2 documents. Could be 1 document, elsewhere it could be 4 documents, I don't know. But by putting those into place, those are the most important, because when you become incapacitated, someone else can carry on your plan. You know, you may have set up a good plan and you don't want that interrupted. Well, that's your way of doing it. And people are probably thinking, what about wills and trusts? Well, wills and trusts are good, but a will is for after you pass away, not for during your life. A trust can be both. It can be both for during your life and also for after you pass away. But if we are, again, talking about late starters, those are pretty sophisticated. Trusts are pretty sophisticated. You may not need those at this point, but what I think everyone should have are powers of attorney.
Excellent. So here's a great question. How can families plan for the possibility of one spouse needing significant care while ensuring the other one has retirement?
Could you say that again, Laura? You broke
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. How can families plan for the possibility of one spouse needing significant care while ensuring the other has financial stability?
Sure. So the example I would give is where one spouse is relatively healthy, living in your family home, and let's say your income and your savings are doing well, but then the other spouse needs nursing home, significant outlay. In those situations, once again, Medicaid will step in, and they will step in to protect both what we call the community spouse, the person who's living in the community that we described, and then the nursing home spouse as well, the person who needs aid. And there are provisions, and again, this is something that you would do at the time. You don't have to plan for it. These laws exist in every state. They vary by state, but they exist in all of them, that allow you to keep the family home, that allow you to keep a significant dollar amount of savings without jeopardizing the care for the spouse who needs nursing home care. So that's but also do evaluate in-home care. Like I said in the beginning, most people don't want to live in a nursing home. And oftentimes the care needs kind of grow over time. So there may come a point where you need that, but maybe there's a possibility, and it's a lot cheaper to do in-home care, and the quality of life can oftentimes be better too. So don't be afraid to look into that as well. Talk to an elder law attorney. They have the resources on that.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we've almost gotten to our half hour. It goes by very quickly. We have posted a lot of great resources and information, and the AARP Prepare to Care is in multiple languages. You can select and download, even just to look on your phone to see some of the aspects for planning, whether you are a caregiver, you believe you may be down the road. They just have some great insights. So I want to thank Steve Andersson for his time and vast knowledge he gives us every month as we go through these various aspects of retirement, elder law, and planning. Do you have any closing remarks for us, Steve?
Sometimes my closing remarks are just, it's going to be okay. And it is. But in this case, my closing remark is it's never too late to start. So start now. Even if you feel like you're behind, you'll be amazed at how much you can do if you start to discipline this and work through it. So it is never too late to start.
Yeah, just exhale and say, I'm going to do it. And then just plow into it. So we want to thank you all for joining us today. We know these conversations are not easy, but we're here to have them with you, and we thank you. Again, we want to thank our heartfelt and gratitude to Steve Andersson for sharing his expertise and insights. Once again, thank you for joining us. We look forward to continuing our mission of supporting seniors, caregivers, and the entire aging community, not only here in Illinois, but across the nation. Please go back to any of the links that we've provided today, the Meals on Wheels ARP for planning to prepare to care. These are here for you and maybe help you start launching those conversations. We want to wish you a wonderful day, and this concludes today's virtual event.